Okay, so we're going to be chatting about overthinking. I'm joined by the amazing Hannah, who is here in this like wild experiment that's gone wrong. And I did a post about this on social media and hilariously spelled overthinking wrong, and I put stop overthink. I'm not sure if everyone noticed that, but it was pretty funny. Someone in the comments wrote, Katie in the comments wrote, if this was intentional, it was genius. Sadly, it wasn't intentional. But anyway, just to start off, just in case anybody doesn't know who you are, Hannah, can you just introduce yourself?
I actually didn't even notice when you sent me that post before.
You did notice quite quickly.
No, Tom did.
Oh, Tom
Tom was like, "Did
noticed.
Liz mean to do that?" And I was like, "Who what?" Um, but yeah, I'm very excited to be here and be live now. I am Hannah Isted. I run a business called HI Communications. I'm the author of The Best 90 Days Ever, and I teach business owners how to promote what they do in 10 minutes a day. So I run a membership of the same name as well, The Best 90 Days Ever.
Amazing. And I know that in your membership, a lot of people, well, I think a lot of small business owners in general struggle with overthinking, and often it like stops them from getting the things that they want done in their businesses. Why do you think it's such a problem? Like, where do you think that comes from?
I feel like, what is the benefit? Like, it's not even so much as it's a problem. I feel like there's just no benefit to it because it really means that you're not trying anything, you're not learning how you can improve your work, you're not getting anything done because you're kind of stuck in this cycle of things are taking too long, you're overthinking it, you're not learning how to get quicker and how to improve. So yeah, I feel like it stops you from making progress.
But why do you think people do it in the first place? Like, do you think it's perfectionism? Like, I feel like there's lots of things around like why it happens. So I think one thing is perfectionism. I actually also was thinking about this the other day, and I think like a fear of success is
Mm,
often behind it. I think it's fear of failure. I think it could go either way. So it's either a fear of failure where, people don't want to put it out there because they don't want to publicly, fail. But I do think that sometimes, like, what does that mean if it actually goes well?
yeah.
And like, what does that then mean for your business? And I think sometimes like thinking about that too much holds people back. Like, what do you think, like, what other sort of reasons do you think people overthink?
Yeah, I have lots of thoughts about perfectionism. That's not something I suffer with or ever have. And, or not necessarily suffer with, but do you know what I mean? It's never been a part of my thought process. And I remember seeing something on TikTok and it was like, this is not my words. So if you call me out for the too tough love, it's not my words, but it says something like, oh, you say you're a perfectionist. When was the last time you did anything perfectly?
Yeah, which is a good point, because
Yeah,
that is a
you
good
just
point, because
can't.
we don't.
And it doesn't need to be perfect. Like,
Yeah.
none of this stuff needs to be perfect for us to put it out there. Marketing is not perfect. This live has not been perfect, and that's
I'm so
absolutely
far
fine.
from that.
It just shows
Yeah.
like we're normal humans. And actually, I think those little bits of imperfection, the times when things go wrong or we make mistakes or we need help, that is when you build the most connection with other people.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I feel like
I hope I
that's one of the
hope people are
benefits.
feeling connected right now. My camera's literally going like dark and light. It's not streaming on YouTube. Everything has gone wrong. But at least now I can make a list of things that I need to fix. And next time my live stream will be so much better. And I
Definitely.
think that comes back to the point that you made just now, is that if you don't do anything because you're overthinking it, because of whatever the fear might be, and I think
Mm,
sometimes it's hard to be honest with yourself about which fear it is, but I think like the way that I've learned the most in my business is just by doing. Like, I have to
yeah.
do it, accept that it's not going to be perfect, and then I know that I'll actually learn more than if it goes perfectly first time. And
Mm,
so yeah, I think that is one of the things that has helped me get over overthinking things, because I'm like, well, actually, if things don't go, as I expected, then I can learn from that and improve.
yeah, 100%. And I didn't even answer your question. before about what are the reasons. But yeah, I agree. There's like that worry about when things go wrong, and then there's that worry about when things go right, and what that means for, I mean, I'm talking about this from like a marketing side of things, but overthinking shows up in all areas of our lives and our businesses and all that kind of stuff. So it's also thinking about, if this means it goes right, how is that going to change my business, what I'm doing? Are people going to start to see me? Am I going to be much more visible? Like that then brings on its own set of worries and things that you can overthink about as well. So yeah, I feel like there's the two sides of it, the things that what goes wrong and what goes right. But with the things that go wrong, I think we just anticipate that they're going to be so much worse than we ever expect. Like, this has gone wrong. And so what is the worst thing that can actually happen? Like,
I
it's
mean,
not going to be that detrimental, is it?
no. I mean, the worst thing that could actually happen, I guess, is maybe it damages my brand, or people look at me and think that I'm not professional enough or whatever.
Mm.
But actually, I don't think that will happen, because I've built a brand that isn't like that. Like it's never been about being perfect, and so people don't expect that from me. So I think, yeah, there's like low risk. Yassi made a really good comment where she put, when things go right, then there's actually a risk for so much more to go wrong. And I think that's so true. Like, actually, if you start as a beginner and build your way up, like that's so much more sustainable and easier than if things just go perfectly first time and
Yeah.
then like maybe don't in the future.
Isn't there that saying about like it's higher, I'm going to butcher this, but it's like higher to fall from the top. Do you know what I mean? Like as you keep going up, and it's windy at the top.
Windier at the
Yeah.
top. Yeah. And
Like as you keep going up, it's more of a risk.
I've
Yeah.
heard people talk about that recently, where I've so we were on a panel last year with a guy called CJ, and he's talked about this, where like he's grown this massive audience, which is amazing, but now he's feeling all this pressure because he feels like if he messes up or if he falls, he's got so much further to fall. And his
Mm.
audience did grow really rapidly, like almost overnight. And so that is where I just think sustainable growth is like so much better, because actually you can like gradually, like you can grow with the sort of like growth in your business. And like this, for example, this feels very low risk because I've got like 300 subscribers on YouTube, and not that many people, well, not it's on YouTube right now, but like not that many people are going to see it. Whereas, if I had 2.5 million subscribers on YouTube and this went wrong, like that would feel like a bigger deal, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but still, what is the problem? Like, if it
Yeah,
goes wrong,
true.
what is
Yeah,
it gonna
it's
do? And
not. Yeah.
it can sometimes like humanize some of those big brands.
Mm,
Things go wrong all of the time. That it just makes them feel almost more like attainable. I don't know, more
yeah.
like they are, not so far off into the future that we could never ever work with them.
Yeah.
They're just humans. And someone said to me the other day that, especially when you're like pitching for things as well, the people you are pitching to are just people. They're just
Hmm.
people that work at those companies,
Yeah,
and
that's
that's
such a good
it.
way to think about it. I One of my favorite things actually is to spot when big companies do things wrong. And usually it's
Mm.
not anything like major. It's like, oh, they've written the date wrong on an event, or a link's not working. But it just makes me feel so much better about my business, because I'm like, well, if this huge corporation is making this sort of mistake, like it's okay that I'm making that sort of mistake. And
Mm.
like you say, it's just humans on the other side who could easily, like there's so much room for human error, isn't there?
Yeah.
um okay, so if someone is prone to overthinking, what would be your sort of tough love to get them out of it?
I'm just gonna say get the timer out.
Yes, well, yeah, that's your answer
I
to everything.
Everything, yeah. If in doubt, get the timer out. I think you need to almost find a way of tricking your brain into getting started with the thing that you want to do.
Mm,
So if you are really overthinking it, you don't have to do the whole thing in one go. You could just do 10 minutes of it and
Yeah.
then see how you feel. And I think it's they're like building it up that is so much worse than actually doing it. Like, I don't think doing it is ever usually as bad as we think it is going to be. But it's
Mm.
like the preparation, like the nerves of it, the thinking about it all of the time, that takes way longer than the actual thing.
Yeah, I think breaking it down and like easing yourself in is a really good way. Like, don't you think that with so many things in life, the hardest bit is the starting? And once you've
Mm.
started, then it's so much easier. And I think if you can find a way to make the starting feel so much more manageable. So like you said, either by just just committing to do just 10 minutes, or like doing one really simple task that is going to have started the process, it then like snowballs and builds up momentum. And then I think that
Mm.
does keep the overthinking at bay, because like you've started the thing. I think I don't This is probably getting a little bit deep now, and I don't know if you experience this.
Here we
I
go.
had to tackle this with the like rejection challenge, where I realized that one of the things that I was doing is, if I didn't pitch for something, it was still this like unblemished perfect thing in the future that I could still go for. It was like it was untouched, like it was still a possibility. Whereas if I had pitched for it and someone said no, then that I mean, what I learned was that doesn't mean it's the end of the
Mm.
story. But to me, in my head, then it was like this opportunity that was lost forever. And I think that can sometimes be the same, with the overthinking. Like it feels nicer for us if it's just this unblemished thing in the future that could still happen. I think that's sometimes what stops us from starting.
Yeah, that's so true. It feels like it's that one day thing. Like, I think lots of people would have that with, like big dreams. Like, say you want to write a book, or even like, say you want to start your YouTube channel. If you just have that as like the one day I'm going to start my YouTube channel, it feels really exciting. But actually, the nitty gritty of it is not that exciting, is it? Like,
Mm.
writing each page or planning your videos and recording your videos, like there's work that goes into it. So it almost feels much more, yeah, shiny if you just never get started on it at all.
Yeah, true. Charlie said, I don't know, I've started a million things. It's finishing them that I struggle with. And I actually totally relate to that, because
Yeah.
I think everyone's different. I mean, like, so similarly to Hannah, I don't think overthinking is a massive issue for me. I think, and maybe we need to do a whole other live stream on this, like on finishing, because for me,
Mhm.
I can start loads of things, but I do really struggle to finish them. And the way that I've overcome that is by um like setting myself sort of very hard deadlines, like even
Yeah.
if they're artificial. I have to almost like, so like for example, when I created my first ever course, i I announced when it was going to be ready before I'd even made it. And so then I had no choice but to get it done, because people had paid for it and had signed up for it and were expecting it in like, it was like a small course. So it was feasible to do it, in a sort of shortish period of time, so I could pre-sell it. And that was quite stressful, but it made me get it done. And so
Mm.
I feel like I have to hack my way through those sort of things to get things finished.
I think that that is one of the best skills though, as like a business owner, either getting started or getting finishing, like getting finished is
Yeah.
like finding those hacks that are going to help you. So like
Mm.
whether it's the timer, whether it's deadlines, whether it's like, for me, I like to break down my goals and my tasks into like really, really tiny steps, like so small that you can't talk yourself out of. I like headphones, I like a little treat, a cup of tea, a candle. Do you know what I mean? There's all these things that I like to have in place that I know I will then A, not overthink the thing that I'm trying to do, but B, I'm probably more likely to actually finish it because I've tricked my brain into thinking, yeah, it's time for this project now. So I think if you can like find those little things as well, that will really help you. It helps with both the getting started and the getting finished.
I think like asking for help as well
Yeah.
is a good one, because like So I don't have struggles. I don't struggle so much with starting things. I do struggle with finishing things. And like a very classic example of this is once I've created a branding project, once I've done all the designs, like the bit I enjoy, I really struggle with putting the brand guidelines together and getting all the files ready, because I find that, I don't know, it just doesn't excite me. But that is what needs to get done to deliver the project to the client. And so I've outsourced that to Lois, who's in the chat. And so she does those bits for me. And then that means the project gets over the line. So I've basically asked for help with the bit that I struggle with. And I now like factor that into the cost, like that I'm going to outsource that part of the project.
Yeah. And I feel like me and you help each other with that as well. Like if there's something that we're both procrastinating on, we might like text each other and be like, right, we're getting this done. I'm not going to reply to you. I'm going to check back in when you've finished. And having someone like that, or like a group where you can have that accountability, I think is so useful, because there's like someone else waiting for you to finish it. You have
Yeah.
that accountability then, not just with yourself, because it's really easy to talk yourself out of doing these things.
I think that's why sometimes the virtual co-working can work really well, because someone's watching you work almost. Do you know what I mean? Like someone can see that you're there at your desk, and obviously you could go off and work on something else. But if you've like set your intention and you said this is what I'm gonna work on, yeah, I think that is true. That is really helpful. But I almost feel like you need someone who's going to be quite tough and brutal with you as well.
Well, like me,
Yeah.
just tell you to grow up.
I know. That is like your tagline for me. It's like, grow up, Liz.
Grow up.
Heather has asked that said she needs an accountability buddy. Any tips where to find one? Oh, Charlie, who's in the chat, actually has a brilliant podcast episode about this, about co-mentoring. And I interviewed her and her co-mentor on my podcast as well, chatting about it. What are your tips? Where would you find an accountability buddy?
I think like finding people who kind of work the same as you, or something that you have in common, because that is really helpful if you're all kind of working on the same thing. Because like you don't want to be working with someone who's doing a project that takes like days when you just need a 20-minute boost kind of thing. So yeah, I think like going out looking for people who are similar to you, maybe work the same way as you, but not enough that you can distract each other. I think that is like one of the key things. Like you need to be there
It's
to
finding
work
the
and
right
get stuff
balance, isn't
done.
it, of like similarity and difference. But I also think, I don't know what you think, but I think for us it works that we don't do the same job. Like I think if we were both branding designers, for example, it would be harder. Maybe easier in some ways, but harder in other ways. But I feel like the nice thing about that is that we're not really competitive with each other. We're like cheering each other on in what we're doing. And that just makes it easier to be accountable, I think.
I think, yeah, I agree. And I think the other thing is, I can't remember where I saw this, but it basically said that you don't need an accountability. I'm going to basically just disagree with everything I just said.
Okay.
But it basically said, like, you don't need accountability from someone else. You just need to do it. Like, do you know what I mean? It was almost like you are the person that you need to be accountable for. Like, this is going to help your business, your marketing. Like, you're the one that is benefiting from it. So you almost need to find a way of like finding that accountability within yourself. I wish I could remember what book it was.
But then, do you know what I think it is that we need? We need cheerleaders. Like we need, because sometimes it maybe isn't about accountability, and sometimes it's just someone to cheer us on and tell us that we can do it.
Yeah, and everyone is just different, aren't they? Like, everyone, the way everyone works, the way that everyone thinks, overthinks, underthinks, is all going to be different. I think that is the key, is that you need to, I know Evie said, like, I need the accountability to help trust myself. Like, yeah, there's so many different ways that people work. You have to figure out the one that is going to be best for you, and also know that it's going to change. Like, there'll be times in the year where I maybe overthinking. I don't overthink much, but maybe I'm thinking more than I would be usually, because there's other stuff going on. So I think being open to the fact that it's going to change, you're going to adapt, and like you're just figuring it out we're all just like figuring it out, aren't we?
Yeah. In terms of going back to Heather's question, I think like we just made friends online, right? Me and you. So I think that is totally like a viable option, is
Mm.
finding people that you connect with online. Like I think it does take a bit of trial and error, because like I've definitely had other sort of like online business friendships where I just don't think it would necessarily work in the same way that it does with me and you,
Mm.
for kind of all the reasons that we just discussed. So I think it can take a bit of trial and error, and I think that you should feel like totally okay about that. Just like
Yeah.
get to know a whole bunch of people, and then if you really click with someone, like ask them if they would be up for that sort of like mutually beneficial accountability relationship.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Yeah, because it has to be mutual.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can't just rely on someone for that when it's not kind of working both ways, I think.
Yeah, and I mean if it's not mutual and it's not balanced, then ultimately you need a coach or a mentor or
Yeah,
someone who you're paying to basically do that
yeah,
for you. But then it's more
100%.
about them supporting you rather than it going both ways, I think.
Yeah. And there'll be different points when you need that different level of support, won't there?
Mm, yeah, totally. Okay, hopefully that was helpful. If there's people like watching this and they have a particular project and they're sort of feeling stuck, well, I know what you're going to say. Like, say, let's use like say they want to launch a new service, but like they're overthinking all of the details of it. What would be like your first step in that process to get them going?
I'd probably say, like, partly your tip of setting a deadline, or at
Mm-hmm.
least putting in some dates to kind of like frame it so that
Yeah.
you know where you're at, and what you're working towards. And then I would just chunk it down. So
I
start
love
with
it when
like the
you
big
say
project.
that.
Is that not a thing people say?
I don't think
Chunk it
so.
down.
I've never
Oh,
heard anyone else say chunk it down, but I love it. Go
we're
on,
gonna chunk
sorry.
it down.
Chunk it
We're
down,
chunking it
yeah.
down. And so you chunk it down, and then each little oh, there you go, Sam says chunk it down. Each bit, you then create the task that you're going to do. So rather than looking at it as like a whole project, you are then just thinking, okay, I'm just going to work on this first part, this first chunk, and then I've got these individual tasks that I'm going to work through, and the rest I will like take care of later on down the line. And I think as well, like part of the advice you gave about outsourcing, when you look at that big list, are there things that actually you don't need to do that you can outsource to someone else, or you can do a swap or something like that? Like what bits can you start to get off your plate, but just like giving yourself time,
Mm.
because so many people, especially with launching and like with their marketing, they'll get up to, a week, 2 weeks before, and then be like, oh yeah, I'm launching that thing in a couple of weeks. And they got no emails written, no posts created, no reels or anything. And that is overwhelming. You will start to get into overthinking then, just because you're panicking. So I think, yeah, giving yourself some time. He's done a task. I love that.
Nikki says, I think I need constant encouragement. Honestly, I'm the same. I basically just need someone to give me constant pep talks and tell me I can do it and that I'm amazing.
Maybe everyone who's in this chat should look at what's on their to-do list and pick one thing that they are either overthinking or just procrastinating on, and do it today. And
Yes.
then we can all check in at the end.
And
And
then
then,
once I've uploaded this video to YouTube, you can come and
yeah,
let us know in the chat which task you completed. Yes, that's such a good idea. Okay, that's
that would be
everybody
fun.
who's watching. That is your goal. I actually can think of something. I've got a mood board that I've been putting off doing, so I'm going to finish it today, and I'm going to
Nice.
come back and I'm going to put it in the chat on YouTube when I've
I
uploaded
love
this
that.
video, and everybody else can come and tell us too. That's a great idea. I think
5
something
emails.
like this
I
huge
did.
this I do think that there's like a whole thing with neurodiversity in here as well. I do not have any diagnosed neurodiversity, but there are so many traits with like ADHD that I identify with. And like this mood board, for example, is something that will probably take me about 10 minutes to do, but I've totally got in my head about it. And for some reason, and I can't really explain why, I've built it into this thing that feels like it's going to be really hard, even though like logically I know it's going to be really easy. Like I've already found the images. I literally just have to put it together on a page. And so I just don't know why I'm so stuck on it. So yeah, I think that
But
there
what if you took your own advice with that then and gave yourself the deadline of like 2 p.m. today?
yeah, that's what I need to
You know
do.
what I
The
mean?
problem with it is that I've been giving myself a deadline and then I just keep pushing it back and back. And so this is where I think this is a really good example where I need that external accountability. You know,
Yeah.
like I need you to message me at like 3 and be like, have you sent the mood board? And then
Yeah.
give me a bit of a hard time if not. um oh, hey Angus. Angus says, Liz, this is so familiar for me. Yeah, I think a lot of people do relate to it, and I think it is also really common like with creatives as well, you know, like
Yeah.
that it'll just be, I mean, not just creatives, but I think a lot of people will have these little niggly jobs. There's like loads of memes about it, aren't there, where it's kind of like, oh, that thing that I've just spent 7 months procrastinating on just took me 10 minutes to do or something like that, and you're like,
Literally.
yeah. And
Can I
then
say something controversial?
yeah,
Well, I don't think. Well, don't know if this is what I think, but I'm just gonna just put it out there.
get it out there.
Yeah, we all
Yeah.
need a mini Hannah. Okay, well, this is what my mini Hannah would say. Do we need to just be harder on ourselves sometimes?
Yeah.
So, like, we're letting ourselves procrastinate, whereas, like, should we just be doing it?
We just need to we
Get
need
on
like
with
to have
it.
a tough word with ourselves. I think the
Yeah,
problem for me is that, so let's carry on with the mood board example, right?
yeah.
I then start to feel shame about the fact that I haven't done it, and it then builds into this bigger thing where I'm actually really embarrassed that I haven't done this thing that I said I would do and sent it to the client. And so then it sort of takes on this whole sort of life of its own. But yeah, I think you're right. Like well, it is kind of like when you're just like, Liz, grow up, you know, like I need someone to just be like, Liz, just do it, you know, like why are you like, I'm gonna feel so much better once I've done it. I'm so gonna get it done today now, which is gonna be amazing.
Yeah, you are. And you're going to
um
feel really good about that.
yeah,
Like, that's
exactly. I can
exciting.
take it off my list and it will feel really good.
Yes, Heather, I get like that. I just get annoyed and I'm like, okay. There's a really well, there's someone on TikTok who talks about like cleaning. I've sent you quite a few of her videos, and she is quite controversial, but she is very much this like tough love, you just need to do it kind of thing. And it is really divisive because there are people in the comments who are like, this does not work for me. And then there are people in the comments that are like, she doesn't shout, but it is firm
Yeah.
talking. She's like, your firmness and your toughness has made me clean my whole house this weekend, you know, do all of these things and
Wow.
stuff that I've been putting off. Yeah, and even like I felt like that this weekend. Like I did a lot of stuff that I have definitely
That
been
some
putting off.
stranger on the internet shouted at you
Yeah,
about.
because she reminded me that the benefit is me.
Oh
I am the
yeah.
one that is benefiting from
Yeah,
this. It's
yeah,
the same
yeah.
with like your business. It's the same with your to-do list. Like you are the one that is going to benefit from you finishing that mood board and your client and stuff. So
Yeah.
I find it, I know that like sentence lacks any nuance at all. Like there are things, I've got Crohn's disease, so I don't have unlimited energy all of the time.
Yeah.
You know, there are things like neurodivergence and all of that, but I like if it's working for some people, for this group of people, I wonder like how much of it can be adapted to work a little bit for everyone.
Yeah, totally. Layla said it could even just be the type of cognitive activity. So like whether it's creative and or whether it's like logical. And I do think there is something in that. Like I think my brain decides something's going to be too hard, or not too hard in the sense that I can't do it, just too hard in that I know it's going to take a lot of mental energy. And so yeah, like Layla said, more of my resources, and then that sort of pushes into the delay.
Yeah. But that's just I feel like a lot of that is like structuring your day and your brain like capacity as well, isn't it? Like I find that I can do a lot more creative work in the morning. So if there's things I need to think hard about, then I would put them first thing. And then like after 3 p.m. I'm just useless. So
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
sort of like bitty bits that don't need much brain power, I can put then.
I mean, I think, well, a good way to wrap this up, because I won't go on too long, especially after we started late and didn't even make it to YouTube, is that actually such a huge part of like running your business is just really getting to know like who you are and what you're like,
Mm.
because there isn't going to be that, you know, like the tough love is going to work for some people, and some people are going to need a much like more friendly, encouraging approach. And so I think it's working out what you need, working out like what you like, what motivates me. I mean, I'm friends with Hannah, so I clearly like the tough love.
I'm not even that tough.
I
And
know you're
just to say,
not.
when I say grow up to Liz, I mean it with love. Like
No, and that's
I don't. It's a nice thing.
it is a nice thing, and that's why it doesn't bother me in the slightest, because I told, you know, I take it in the spirit that it is intended, which is that you care about me and you're just telling me to get on with it and we have a good laugh about it. But yeah, I think like that is huge. And I think for me, this whole thing, like the last 5 years has been this huge process of me understanding what I'm like, how my brain works, like where I struggle, and then getting help where I need it, you know, finding people who can support me in the way that I need. But yeah, well, there is your challenge for today. Go and do that niggly thing on your list that you've been putting off. And then once I've uploaded this video to YouTube, come and tell us that you did it. I'll make sure I upload it like this afternoon so that you can come and tell us this evening or later today that you did the thing. But anyway, thank you so much for so many of you coming to watch. Sorry that it didn't go quite to plan at the start. And I'll be going live again on YouTube to make sure I work out those kinks and can actually do it. So yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you.